Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna. Today we're continuing our study of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and for a little bit of time we've been hearing about Lord Chaitanya's travels to the holy places. So right now he's in South India. Oh, thank you. And as we're discussing his travels, I pulled up the map of where he's going because it's quite explicitly explained. And it's I don't know, somehow it just, seeing where he was going on the map when I was reading through recently, it's kind of, the visualization's really strong, and it helps to sort of understand where he's going and what he's doing. And my understanding is from Dayavir Prabhu that he left off on text 185. And I'm just going to, I'm sorry, this is the Madhya 9 and text 185, but I'm actually going to go back to text 178 and just read a little bit so we can see on the map. Okay, so can everybody see? This is Madurai. So that's where he currently is, and he's speaking with, and that's considered southern Mathura, actually. Madurai is known as southern Mathura, and it's on the banks of this river, the Baigai. It goes all the way through. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at southern Mathura from Kamakoshti, he met a Brahmana. He was in Kamakoshti speaking with Lord Shiva, who was dressed up like a Brahmana. He talked to him for 3 days, and then he kept traveling. And of course, we all know he was traveling by foot, right, Lord Chaitanya? Southern Mathura, presently known as Madurai, is situated on the banks of the Baigai River. This place of pilgrimage is specifically meant for the devotees of Lord Shiva. Therefore, it is called Shaiva Kshetra, that is, the place where Lord Shiva is worshipped. In this area, there are mountains and forests. There are also 2 Shiva temples, one known as Rameshwara and the other known as Sundareshwara. There is also a temple to Devi called the Meenakshi Devi Temple, which displays very great architectural craftsmanship. It was built under the supervision of the kings of the Pandya dynasty, and when the Muslims attacked this temple, as well as the temple of Sundareshwara, great damage was done. In the Christian year 1372, a king named Kampana Udayara reigned on the throne of Madurai. Long ago, Emperor Kulakshetra ruled this area, and during his reign he established a colony of Brahmanas. A well-known king named Anantaguna Pandya is an 11th generation descendant of Emperor Kulakshetra. So we've heard of King Kulakshetra, right? We've heard the prayers of King Kulakshetra. Very powerful. And so that's the place that Lord Chaitanya was in. So this is actually text 179. Se vipra mahaprabhu ke kaila nimantrana Rama bhakta se vipra virakta mahajana. The Brahmana who met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu invited the Lord to his home. This Brahmana was a great devotee and an authority on Lord Sri Ramachandra. He was always detached from material activities. Krita malayaya shnakari aila tanra kare viksha kiti bena vipra paka nahi kare. After bathing in the river Kritamala, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the Brahmana's house to take lunch. But he saw that the food was unprepared because the Brahmana had not cooked it. Mahaprabhu kahatandre suna mahashaya madhyana haila kene paka nahi haya. Seeing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "My dear sir, please tell me why you have not cooked. It is already noon." Vipra kahe Prabhu mora anraye vashati pakera samagri vaneva na mile samprati. The Brahmana replied, "My dear Lord, we are living in the forest. For the time being, we cannot get all the ingredients for cooking." And we can see from the map that now there's quite a lot going on in Madurai, so I'm sure there'd be no problem getting whatever you wanted for cooking. It's been quite developed since then. Tanha upashana suni prabhu tusta haila aste vyaste se vipra radana karila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very satisfied to hear about the Brahmana's method of worship. Finally, the Brahmana hastily made arrangements for cooking. So the Brahmana had recited, "My dear Lord, we are living in the forest for the time being. We cannot get all the ingredients for cooking. Did I skip? When Lakshmana brings all the vegetables, fruits, and roots for the forest, Sita will do the necessary cooking." He said that. That was, I think I just accidentally skipped that. Vanya saka phala mula anibe Lakshmana tabe Sita karibena paka prayojana. So he's saying when Lakshmana brings all the vegetables, fruits, and roots from the forest, Sita will do the necessary cooking. So, Lord Chaitanya is speaking with this Brahmana, and he's sort of dreamily replying these things about Lakshmana bringing vegetables, and we cannot get all the ingredients for cooking. But, of course, Lord Chaitanya can understand. And as it said in the next verse, he's very satisfied to hear about the Brahmana's method of worship, so he could understand that this is a Ram Bhakta. Prabhu Bhiksha Koila Dinera Tritiya Prahare Nirvina Sevipra Upavasha Kare. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his lunch at about 3 o'clock, but the Brahmana, being very sorrowful, fasted. Prabhu kahe vipra kanhe kara upavasha keneta dukha kena karaha hutashaya utasa. While the Brahmana was fasting, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him, "Why are you fasting? Why are you so unhappy? Why are you so worried?" Vipra kahe jivane mora nahi prayojana agni jale praveshya chariba jivana. The Brahmana replied, "I have no reason to live. I shall give up my life by entering either fire or water." Jaganmata Mahalakshmi Sita Thakurani Rakshashe Sparshila Tanre Iha Kane Suni. My dear sir, Mother Sita is the mother of the universe and the supreme goddess of fortune. She has been touched by the demon Ravana, and I am troubled upon hearing this news. E sharira dari bare kabu na yuyaya e duke jvale deha prana nahiyaya. Sir, due to my unhappiness, I cannot continue living. Although my body is burning, my life is not leaving. So this Brahmana is deep in meditation about the pastimes of Sri Ramachandra and Sita Devi and Lakshman, the whole Ramayan basically. He's deep deep in meditation about that when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu happened upon him here in Madurai. And in his estimation, Ravana has abducted or touched Sita Devi, and he's unable to bear thinking about that since, as we all know, Ravana is a demon. And this Brahmana, this great Prabhu, has taken it on his head, this whole unfortunate situation because of his affiliation with Lord Ramachandra. Prabhu kahe bhavana na karihara pandita hana kene na karaha vichara. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "Please do not think this way any longer. You are a learned pandit. Why don't you consider the case? Ishvara prayasi sita chitsananda murti prakrita indriyara tanreti kite nahi shakti." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, "Sita Devi, the dearmost wife of the Supreme Lord Ramachandra, certainly has a spiritual form full of bliss. No one can see her with material eyes, for no materialist has such power. Sparsi para karya achuka na paya darshana sitara akriti maya harira ravana." To say nothing of touching Mother Sita, a person with material senses cannot even see her. When Ravana kidnapped her, he kidnapped only her material illusory form. And I've heard this so many times over the years from Bir Krishnadas Goswami, but wasn't really quite clear on how it worked. And this is explaining how Lord Ramachandra and Mother Sita, particularly Mother Sita, cannot be perceived with material senses, gross senses. She cannot be captured by anyone. This is the goddess of fortune. This is Mother Sita. There's not any reasonable way that Ravana can even, lay eyes on her, let alone sort of take her away, like, we hear about in the Ramayana. Of course, all those things are sort of a lila, so, anybody can understand, but as Lord Chaitanya confirms herein, that's not the case at all. And so as Vaishnavas who have a little bit more insight in those pastimes, we're relieved to know that that was the case at the time. And Lord Ramachandra, our Lord Chaitanya, was soothing this Brahmana. This Brahmana was quite disturbed. He was soothing this Brahmana so he would understand that this is nothing he has to worry about. Why doesn't he consider the case? So he was there to dispel that myth and that dark cloud. And the Brahmana was paralyzed and wanting to give up his life from that assumption. Ravana sitai sitantardana kaila Ravanera age maya sita pataila. As soon as Ravana arrived before Sita, she disappeared. Then, just to cheat Ravana, she sent an illusory material form. Aprakrita vastu nahi prakrita gochara Veda Puraneti Ekahe Nirantara. Spiritual substance is never within the jurisdiction of the material conception. This is always the verdict of the Vedas and the Puranas. Purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai. Om Jnana Taramandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. As stated in the Katha Upanishad, Canto 2, Text 3, Chapters 9 through 12, Na sandrishe tishtati rupam ashya, na chakshusha pashyati kaschanaina mam, Prida Manisha Manasha Bikto Yad Etad Vidur Amritas Te Bhavanti Naiva Vacha Na Manasha Praptum Shakyo Na Chakshusha. Spirit is not within the jurisdiction of material eyes, words, or mind. It's actually a very, that cuts a lot of sort of speculation and, you know, even in our everyday lives when I speak with people and they're kind of thinking about spiritual matters or personalities in kind of a mundane way, this sort of cuts that illusion completely in half. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 84, Text 13 states, Yashatma buddhi guna petri daktute svadi kala tradishu bauma idyadi yatirta buddhi salile nakarhichi janeshvabi jeshu sa eva gokara. A human being who identifies his body made of three elements with his self, who considers the byproducts of his body to be his kinsmen, who considers the land of his birth worshipable, and who goes to a place of pilgrimage simply to take a bath rather than to meet men of transcendental knowledge there, is to be considered like an ass or a cow. We've heard that verse before many times. Because with our material eyes, we really can't conceive, or any of our material senses, we really can't conceive what's going on, actually. You know, how things are working, how the sun or the planets revolve around the sun, how, you know, things kind of function in the material world or in the spiritual world. But there's so much we can't possibly understand with our material senses. And since we also have the four defects as human beings, tendency to commit mistakes being the main one, and just being an illusion is the other main one, we can't conceive of spiritual matters. Even in our little localized abode, you know, things happen sometimes that we don't have a clue of how it was arranged. You know, we see people kind of moved like pawns. We see, or we feel like an instrument sometimes, right? Sometimes we can't understand how something happened or how it will even happen if it seems like a monumental task. We can't understand those things because we just have these sort of gross and dull material senses. So that's where the faith and guru, sadhu, and shastra come in. That's where those things come in for our sadhana bhakti practice. You know, we can't just sort of take everything cheaply and think we know how it's going to work, because actually we really have no clue. And we just have to have that faith in, you know, Radha Golokananda, in our dear Guru, in Srila Prabhupada, the Parampara, actually just the whole power of the Dham itself, you know, being a place where the holy names have been chanted and Krishna has been worshipped for, it's going to be 50 years pretty soon. So we don't have any conception of how those things are going on with our material senses. So we just have to, you know, take the guidance of our guru and other sadhus, exalted personalities, senior devotees, and the Shastra. As we see here, and we're reading these verses, spirit is not within the jurisdiction of material eyes, words, or mind. And human being identifying with the body made of three elements, we can't take those so greatly to heart. You know, we have to overcome a lot of that. And it's hard with the threefold miseries. It's hard with particularly Adi Baudik, our bodies that are giving us trouble. You know, we're trying hard to take care. Of course, as we get older, we have to invest more time and effort into taking care. We have to do more maintenance. And we can see and feel the body kind of breaking down. You know, we can feel that those elements kind of pulling apart. And it's a little disheartening. You know, I'll admit it's a little bit discouraging to have those things. And, you know, for some of us who haven't really been practicing a long time in Krishna consciousness and maybe wasted our youth up until the age of 30 or 33, you know, we're a little bit upset. You know, won't say what I was thinking of, but it makes you a little salty to think that I wasted 30 plus years of life not worshiping the Lord or not chanting the Maha Mantra, you know. So anyway, we're here now. These are some Vedic statements about spiritual substance. Spiritual substance cannot be seen by the unintelligent because they do not have the eyes or the mentality to see the spirit soul. Consequently, they think that there is no such thing as spirit. But the followers of the Vedic injunctions take their information from Vedic statements, such as the verses from the Katha, Upanishad, and Srimad Bhagavatam quoted above. And I'm thinking of another verse, I don't know what the number is, but there's that statement that some look on the soul as amazing, some think it's amazing, but realistically, they don't really understand the soul at all. You know, you can kind of understand the concept, but it's very difficult to, particularly since it's sort of residing in this machine, this bodily construct, we can't really understand the soul within and the qualities of that and how much or how little it's creating our workings of our life, even though that's the whole reason. You know, that's the soul is the only thing moving matter, you know, moving this matter. And that's sort of what's being discussed here in relation to Ravana touching Sita Devi. You know, if you think about those sort of, you know, it seems very esoteric. If you think about those concepts in relation to something, you know, this particular pastime, it's a little bit easier to conceive that there was a Maya Sita, you know, by her own will, she conjured up or she put that thing in place so she wouldn't be touched, because of course she wouldn't be touched by a materialist. So, okay, text 195. Vishvasha karaha tumi amara vachane punarapi kubhavana nakira mane. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then assured the Brahmana, have faith in my words and do not burden your mind any longer with this misconception. This is the process of spiritual understanding. Achintya kalu ye bhava na tam starkena yo yayet. We should not try to understand things beyond our material conception by argument and counter-argument. Mahajano yena gata sa panta. We have to follow in the footsteps of great authorities coming down in the parampara system. If we approach a bona fide acharya and keep faith in his words, spiritual realization will be easy. And yes, I can attest, it's definitely by the grace of Srila Prabhupada and everything that he's given us, it is much easier than I will say when I maybe started out and was reading everything and had no clue about what this all was, you know. A whole other world, it seemed, what it all was. And yesterday I was speaking with the Krishnadas Goswami, and we were talking about how the mind works. You know, the mind is like, of course we know the mind is just simply accepting and rejecting. But the mind also seems to enjoy like ruminating on things, like kind of something comes in that maybe needs to be fleshed out, needs a little bit more understanding, and the mind immediately seizes on it and just starts like churning, whatever the topic is. Even if maybe somehow you have some knowledge of a spiritual, understanding, some little bit, the mind still, even with that input, still wants to just keep churning and churning and churning and churning. And it gets, I'm sure everybody can attest, very tiresome when your mind just won't stop working. You can't shut it up. You have, you have all the things in there that the tools are in there to help understand, but it just won't shut up. It won't take that. It won't take that understanding. It doesn't. It wants to complete the speculatory process on its own. Has everybody had this experience, right? You just want to, you just want to continue to think about it and think about it. And, the words of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the Brahmana, have faith in my words and do not burden your mind any longer with this misconception. That can be practically put on a sign and posted everywhere to remind us that we just need to have that faith. We need to have that faith in Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And in our own, meager understanding, and if we can't understand, we ask an authority. We ask a spiritual authority, or we find it out with, from Prabhupada, and or speak about it with other devotees. And I'm sure everybody can attest that get a lot of clarity. You go into a situation thinking about something one way, and then a lot of times, as we've seen in this whole, I was reflecting, there was another pastime from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu earlier in the text where he visits the house of a Brahmana, and the Brahmana has a family. And, he was maintaining, and they hosted Lord Chaitanya for, I think, lunch. And and then when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was about to leave, the Brahmana couldn't bear to see him leave. He wanted to go with him, He wanted to go on his tour with him. He wanted to leave his family behind, leave all of his material responsibilities behind, and just go travel and, be with the Lord. And the Lord said, no, you've got to stay here. You've got to stick with what you're doing. Remember me from afar, and have faith that we'll be together at some point, is basically what he had told that Brahmana. And the Brahmana had to be satisfied with that. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being obviously the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and I see it every day in my own experiences as I go about my service, that Krishna comes in different forms. Even random people I've seen who will say something that seems maybe incongruous in the conversation or to somebody else standing there, but something will come out of their mouth that directly relates to something that's on your mind or something you're thinking about, just completely out of the blue. And later, if I ask that person, "Oh, what did you mean by that?" And they'll say, "What? I don't even remember. I didn't. What are you talking about? I didn't say that." They'll have no recollection of having said whatever they said. And the only thing that I can deduce from those times, which happen pretty regularly, is that it's just Krishna directly speaking through that person. Who's had that experience where there's been just something? So, Krishna, as we're his devotees, we're trying, we have faith in him, we're trying our best to please him, serve him, remember him, like that. Krishna's so kind that he actually, speaks to us in so many ways, He gives us so many signs and indications about how to proceed in life, or how to solve a challenge, or how to think about something, turn our thinking a certain way. He gives us so many opportunities by way of his own kindness that it's really, you can't, I mean, if you think about it, you can't really deny that, you know, he loves us, and he's looking after us, and he's trying his best to facilitate our journey to him. You know, he wants us to succeed. He wants us to come back to him. He wants us to be with him. You know, he wants, he's relishing those pastimes where he's able, when what it feels like is when when there's that little connection from a person, or, you know, unknowingly or knowingly, who Krishna uses as his instrument to convey a message. It feels like such a beautiful and deep connection, because I mean, if I suppose if you don't have faith, you can you know, you can try to understand things beyond our material conception by argument and counter-argument, like Lord Chaitanya is advising this Brahmana, just give all that up. You can try to do those things, you know, to think, oh no, that can't be, you know, you can ignore it, you know. And I feel like a lot of times people do that, you know. Devotees do it. They ignore it. They ignore the signs. They really ignore. Meanwhile, you know, like sometimes I'll see from my vantage point that it's so obvious that Krishna's trying to connect with that person and give them some, you know, guidance in some way, but the person, you know, the devotee or the person, you know, whatever, somebody else, they just don't want to take it. They don't want to believe it. They want to brush it off, or they'll argue about it, or no, it can't be. It was just this, or so we can see with this example and many other examples, as I'm sure are coming up, when Lord Chaitanya is going, the mood that he's traveling around, and he's just there. He's just there for, you know, he's presumably and ostensibly he's traveling to the holy places. He's traveling, he's exhibiting the best possible example as a sannyasi and like that in his position. But he happens upon and he talks to a lot of persons along the way, and he makes great impacts in their lives. And that's Krishna, you know, Lord Chaitanya in this pastimes, but that's what the Supreme Personality of Godhead does. He's always there. He's in the heart of every living entity. He's trying his best to help those who want to get back to him to get back to him. And we should have absolutely no doubt that he has our best interests in mind, even if something is arranged that we don't particularly relish. Even if it's very difficult. And, you know, I was talking to Drista Prabhu yesterday, and, you know, sometimes life's kind of hard. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to, it's kind of hard to see what you see and keep on going day after day. I'll just say it like that. And, you know, I heard from Drista yesterday, who I heard from Ishwar Chaitanya the day before. Krishna's just Krishna's putting so many things in our lap so we can, you know, be purified. We have to be purified from our experiences, you know. So even if you feel like you want to sort of duck out, want to just, you know, go off over there, go back into Maya, or maybe just, you know, not really be involved with everything. I mean, at this point in time, you know, we don't really want to take the red pill, right? We don't really want to jump back into, you know, just all out, you know, hopelessness, recklessness, and ignorance. That's what sort of being in Maya is, right? So we don't want to take that red pill. As Bhakti Yoga practitioners, we want to keep on moving forward and take that guidance from Lord Chaitanya or from Lord Krishna or Lord Ramachandra or whoever that you see in your vision that helps you along the way. Prabhura vachane viprera haila vishvasha bhojana karila haila jivanera asha. Although the Brahmana was fasting, he had faith in the words of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and accepted food. In this way, his life was saved. That was a thing we were talking about yesterday, actually, that if you're terminally ill and you have cancer, you have some kind of terminal disease, a bona fide way to sort of speed that process up and try your best to be in Krishna consciousness is to fast from food, water, which is what this Brahmana was doing. I didn't even know this was the verse, by the way. I mean, I kind of read it a couple days ago, but we had that discussion and it wasn't about that. So when you have faith like that, you know, it's kind of more like your mind turns into more of a reasonable and peaceful place. You know, you're not ruminating, speculating, arguing, trying to figure out why this happened. No, there's nothing to figure out. It's all happening because Krishna's making it happen. There's absolutely nothing to figure out. You know, Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada said, is simple for the simple. All we have to practically do is chant Hare Krishna and be happy. And he, you know, even with that statement, he wasn't really giving the hard and fast rules. He wasn't even saying anything about the regulative principles. He wasn't, because there's different degrees, right? Just think if everybody that wasn't like a who isn't practicing sadhana bhakti, just think if everybody in the world was just simply chanting Hare Krishna and being happy. Not with anything attached, they're not following any principles. Just by that strength of the holy name, that's what's going to be the most powerful purificatory agent for everybody in the world. I think I imagine the world would be much, much different. Even if they weren't chanting 16 rounds a day, even if they were just chanting Hare Krishna a little bit during the day, you know, once during the day even, and trying to be happy, just that little bit, that little tiny bit, in like a pin, that actually is going to open up, you know, the mind and the heart to start to receive those blessings, start to have that faith, start to consider that, oh, okay, there is more going on than meets the eye. Everybody's, you know, we're all very attached to our senses, we're attached to our bodies, but, you know, the faith is there regardless of those things. You know, that's something our subtle body kind of, it feels like needs to really like imbue to be able to go forward in a it might be a little bit of a cautious way, but sort of in a confident way into a deeper sadhana bhakti practice. So his life was saved. Tanre ashvarshya prabhu karila gamana krita malaya shnana kari aila durvashana. After thus assuring the Brahmana, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu proceeded further into southern India and finally arrived at Durvasana, where he bathed in the river Kritamala. Presently, the Kritamala River is known as the River Bagai or Vagai. This river has 3 tributaries named Suruli, Varaha Nadi, and Batila Gundu. The river Kritamala is also mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 5, Text 39, by the sage Kara Bhajana. Durvasane Raghunate Kaila Darashana Mahendra Saila Parashura Mera Kaila Vandana. At Durvasana, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the temple of Lord Ramachandra, and on the hill known as Mahendra Saila he saw Lord Parashuram. In Durvasana or Darbasayana, now known as Tirupulani, which is 7 miles east of Ramnad, there is a temple of Lord Ramachandra. The hill known as Mahendra Saila is near Tirunaveli. At the end of this hill is a city known as Tiruchendur. West of Mahendra Saila is the territory of Tribankura. There is mention of Mahendra Saila in the Ramayana. So these are all the places he's, you can see this. So he was starting to venture down a little bit to these areas. He's venturing a little bit to the southeast along the river, which this Madurai goes, if everybody can see, it just goes all the way down. So he's following that river down a little bit. Making good time, it seems, too. Setu bande ashi kaila danus tirte snana rameshvara deki tahan karila vishrama. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then went to Setu Banda, Rameshvara, where he took his bath at the place called Danush Tirtha. From there he visited the Rameshvara temple and then took rest. Purport: the path from Mandapan through the ocean to the island known as Pamban consists partly of sand and partly of water. Whoops. So as we go down, 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 and then there's this little bit that comes out, juts out towards the, I believe it's the Indian Ocean. And then right here, as you're coming down, he just kept following the thing, and this is Mandapan. This is actually where he was. And then following this area, and I looked it up, I looked at pictures actually, it's very beautiful. It looks very, very pristine, gorgeous beaches and all kind of things. And then this is, he's getting in Rameshvara. There's actually the temple there, it's right by the, it's at the edge of this bridge, it's right by the beach, right by the ocean. The path from Mandapan through the ocean to the island known as Pamban consists partly of sand and partly of water. The island of Pamban is about 17 miles long and 6 miles wide. And that's this little island. It looks really nice. Now it's on my bucket list to go. On this island, 4 miles north of Pamban Harbor, is Setu Banda, where the temple of Rameshwara is located. This is a temple of Lord Shiva, and the name Rameshwara indicates that he is a great personality. His worshipable deity is Lord Rama. Thus, the Lord Shiva found in the temple of Rameshwara is a great devotee of Lord Ramachandra. It is said, Devi Patanam Arabhya Gacheyu Setu Bandhanam. After visiting the temple of the goddess Durga, one should go to the temple of Rameshwara. In this area, there are 24 different holy places, one of which is Danush Tirtha, located about 12 miles southeast of Rameshwar. It is near the last station of the South Indian Railway, a station called Ramnad. It is said that here, on the request of Ravana's younger brother, Vibhishan, Lord Ramachandra destroyed the bridge to Lanka with his bow while returning to his capital. It is also said that one who visits Danush Tirtha is liberated from the cycle of birth and death, and that one who bathes there gets all the fruitive results of performing the yajna known as Agni Shtoma. So this Pamban, if you go down a little bit, and then they have a whole road that goes practically through the ocean, and then here's Sri Ram Setu, way down here. There's a point. Yes, and then there it starts Hanumanji, Rama Setu, all these little, I don't know if you can see the little island parts. Ram Setu, Adam's Bridge, So he's basically, this is all the remnants, I'll just zoom out. This is all the remnants of the bridge coming off this Pamban to Sri Lanka. So he's sort of made the jump, so to speak. Lord Chaitanya, he's making his way down to that area. And here's all of Sri Lanka. It looks very lush and green, Sri Lanka. I was studying the topography. It looks beautiful, It's like a beautiful place. I know, it's Lanka, but it's still, Lord Hanuman was there, so it's a place. So I'm just going to stop there, and that's Daivir Prabhu. That's text 200. It talks a little bit more about. It goes more into about Srimati Sita Devi, and it starts a little bit of a mini narration about the pastime of Lord Ramachandra and Ravana and Sita. So, thank you very much. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Lord Ramachandra ki jai.
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Taksham Varhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundaranam Kandar Bhagom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakale Priya Priti Manti Pasyanti Panti Kayanti Giram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham
Page 56. O he Vaishnava Thakura Doyara Sagara Hidase Karuna Kori Nadase Karuna Kori Diya Parachaya Sodaheya Maya Tomara Charana Dori Dina Parachaya Tomara Charana Dori Jaya Bega Domi, Jaya Dosha Shori, Jaya Guna Deho Dashe. Jaya Bega Domi, Jaya Dosha Shori, Jaya Guna Deho Dashe. Jaya Satsanga Deho He Amare, Bosachi Sangerashe Jaya Satsanga Deho He Amare Bosachi Sangerashe Ekaki Amara Naibaya Bala Harinama Sankirtane Ekaki Amara Naibaya Bala Harinama Sankirtane Tumai Kripa Kori Shara Binduliya Deho Krishna Namadane Tumi Kripa Kori Shara Binduliya Deho Krishna Namadane Krishna se tumara Krishna dite paro Tomara Shakatiya che Krishna dite paro Tomara Shakatiya che Amito Kangala Krishna Krishna Boli Taitava Pache Pache Amito Kangala Krishna Krishna Boli Taitava Pache Pache O he Vaishnava Thakura Doya Sagara Hidashe Karuna Gori Vaishnava Thakura Doya Sagara Hidashe Karuna Gori Diya Parachaya Soda Heya Maya Domara Charana Dori Dina Parachaya Soda Heya Maya Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Vaishnav Thakur, Jaya Vaishnav Thakur, Jaya Vaishnav Thakur, Jaya Vaishnava Thakur. Jaya Vaishnava Thakur. Jaya Radha Goloka Nanda, Radha Goloka Nanda, Radhe. Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Gurudev, Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. O Venerable Vaishnava, O Ocean of Mercy, be merciful unto your servant. Give me the shade of your lotus feet and purify me. I hold on to your lotus feet. Teach me to control my 6 passions, rectify my 6 faults, bestow upon me the 6 qualities, and offer unto me the 6 kinds of holy association. I do not find the strength to carry on alone the Sankirtan of the holy name of Hari. Please bless me by giving me just 1 drop of faith with which to obtain the great treasure of the holy name of Krishna. Krishna is yours. You have the power to give him to me. I am simply running behind you, shouting, Krishna, Krishna. Haribol. Jeto Darpana Marjanam Baba Mahadavagni Nirvapana Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitarinam Vidyavadu Jivanam Ananda Puri Vardhanam Pratipadam Purnamra Swadanam Sarvatma Snaparam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahudani Jasarva Shaktis Tatrarnidami Amitasmarane Nakala Etajasita Vakripam Bhagavam Mamapi Durdaihamidrishanidhananina Nuragava Trinarapi Sunichena Talorapi Savishnuna Manina Manakena Kirtani Astari Nadana Kinkaram patitamam vishane pavambudo Vipaya tava parapampajastitya duri santrishya pinshadai Nayanam kalaratshridharaya vadanam kadgadadudagida Pulakarni chitam babhutanam maranamapane vabhishyati Yugayatam nimeshena chakshusha pravishayitam Sunyayitam jagat sarvam govinda vidahena Ashvishava pararatam manastumam adarshamam martamatam murtuva Vitatata bhavitatato matanastu saevana paraha. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Out of your kindness, we approach you by your holy name. But I am so fortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up? And when will the hairs of my body stand on the end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world with your absence. I know one is rich, my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Shikshasika ki jai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Radha Goloka Nanda ki jai.
Harinam Sankirtan today at 11:30 at Weaver Street Market. Please come. It's going to be a nice day. Lots of people will be out shopping. So please come at 11:30 for Harinam. Hare Krishna.